go out and take a course in sales and communication.
Having the aim to be a good communicator is a good start.
The leader's job is communication.
Want success? Model the best. So today, let's learn one of the most common rules that successful people follow: master your communication skills.
I think the idea of knocking on doors, talking to people, like these are the skills that are not taught in the schools. This is why it goes back to your question about the school system failing. The required skills, I need a client. Like if you simplify, the thing that people like about what we do is we simplify the business process. I need to make a contact. How can I do that? Like how can I just simply, if I'm a cameraman and I want more work, how do I knock on a door or make a phone call, get in front of someone?
So hard.
Impress them. If I go to Harrods right here, I'll see how many people don't have that skill. I walk in, I don't even get a hello. I don't get hello. How you doing? Great to have you here. Appreciate you being here. It's so nice for you to drop by. Thanks for coming into Cartier. I mean, it's a $3 million ring over there. I went in there the other day. I can't even get anybody to show me anything. I'm like, how much is the ring? They kind of look at me, right? Can you show it to me? Do you mind showing it to me? He showed it to me, told me how much it was, and I leave. He didn't show me a second ring, a third ring, a fourth ring. So those are the skills that people need, right? How do I interact with people?
Communicate.
Yeah. Warren Buffett was doing the speech with Bill Gates about maybe 10 years ago, and he was asked by a college student, what can we do as students to make ourselves more valuable in the workplace? So you'd think Warren Buffett would say, learn how to pick stocks, learn how to investments, whatever he would say, right? Not what he says. He says, go out and take a course in sales and communication.
Yeah, he did. Dale Carnegie changed his life.
There you go. And that was the point. Because he took that. He says, I took Dale Carnegie, changed without that. You know what he'd be without that course?
Yeah.
He'd be the richest money manager in Omaha, Nebraska that no one ever heard of.
Yeah, and he met his wife that way. The love of his life.
Because without the ability to influence and persuade, you can't put yourself out there into the world and be known for what you really are.
I'm incredibly nervous to talk in front of you because you've got to be one of the most formidable people that I've ever heard of or ever listened to or ever seen. So my question is, again, you're one of the best communicators that I've ever listened to. If I could be half as good at you or at communicating as you are, I would be set. How can I teach myself to do that?
Practice. Really, there's a couple of things. It helps to read a lot. It really helps to write. So if you want to make yourself articulate, which is a very good idea, then not only should you read, but you should write down what you think. And if you can do that a little bit every day, 15 minutes, maybe you could steal 15 minutes and do it every day. But if you do that for 10 years, you really straighten out your thinking. If you're going to speak effectively, you have to know way more than you're talking about, so this is often difficult for beginning lecturers at university because they'll do a lecture on a topic, but they only know as much as they're saying in the lecture. And they get kind of stuck to their notes because of it. But you want to know 10 times as much as you are saying in the lecture, and then you can specify a stepping path through it and elaborate with the other things that you know. But to do that, you have to do a lot of reading. But you also have to do a lot of reading because that's where the synthesizing comes. So that's on the input side. And then on the output side, well, there's some techniques, let's say, is like if you're speaking in front of a group, you are not delivering a talk to a group. That's not what you're doing. The talk isn't a packaged thing that you present to a group. There isn't a group. There's a bunch of individuals, and you talk to them. So when I talk to a group, I always talk to people one at a time. And that makes it easier too, because you know how to talk to a person. It's like, can you talk to 1,000 people? Well, probably not, because it's too intimidating. But there isn't 1,000 people there. There's 1,000 individuals. And so you just look at an individual and you say something, and you can tell if they're engaged they look confused, or they look interested, or they look angry, or they look bored, or maybe they're asleep, in which case you look at someone else. And they give you feedback about how you're doing. And so one thing is to have something to say, yeah, but the next thing is pay attention to who you're talking to. Because unless you're very badly socialized, and that seems unlikely in your case, because you present yourself at least moderately well, and well, I mean, I don't know you very well, but on first sight, you're doing fine. So the probability that if you pay attention to the individuals that you're talking to, that your natural wealth of social skill will manifest itself is extremely high. And so you don't deliver a talk to an audience. That's a really bad way of thinking about it. You're actually engaged in a conversation with an audience. Even if they're not talking, they're nodding and shifting position and looking like this, and you can pull all that in and use it to govern the level at which you're addressing the entire audience. So the last thing I would say is, well, having the aim to be a good communicator is a good start. And you think, well, I could buttress that to some degree. Well, there isn't anything that you can possibly, this is the whole point of a liberal education, there isn't anything that you can possibly do that makes you more competent in everything you do than to learn how to communicate. I don't care if you're going to be a carpenter. I mean, being a carpenter, by the way, is very difficult, especially if you're a good carpenter. But if you're good at communicating as a carpenter, you're like 10 times better as a carpenter. So, and this is something that the liberal arts colleges, I think, I don't know if they've forgotten it, but they don't do a very good job of marketing. It's like, well, what's the use of a bachelor's degree, a Bachelor of Arts? It's like, well, you can think, you can write, you can speak, you've read something. It's like, the economic value of that is incalculable. The people that I've watched in my life who've been spectacularly successful they have skills. Clearly, that's a minimum precondition. But they're also very, very good at articulating themselves. And so whenever they negotiate, they're successful. Well, that's kind of like the definition of success in life, right? You negotiate and it doesn't mean you win. Because if you're a good negotiator, if you're a really good negotiator, everybody walks away from the negotiation thrilled. And so then people line up to do things with you. So, and that's all dependent on your ability to communicate. So practice.
Most leaders, most business people, most entrepreneurs, most human beings have never learned to be masterful communicators. And the very nature of influence and impact, which is the leader's job, is communication. I mean, in school, were you given a communication course? Very few people have been taught that. In your personal relationships, have you read books on communication? Well, that leads to, I mean, in an intimate relationship, or even just with a friend, it's the little miscommunications that over time stack into loss. In your intimate relationships, it's the little conversations that you could have had in 5 minutes if you had the tools to communicate and the awareness to speak. So literally, you could release the anger and build understanding and speak out your needs and feel the need to be heard. All those little things, if you had learned how to do that and done it in 5 minutes with your intimate partner, you might not have lost the relationship. And in your professional life, learning to communicate inspires your teammates. You know, if you look at the great leaders of humanity, the Nelson Mandelas, the Mother Teresas, the Martin Luther King Jr.'s, the John F. Kennedys, if you look at the great business builders, Steve Jobs, great example, right? He would be on the stage at the product launch and then that favorite line, one more thing. And that's when he would reveal the latest piece of technology that would create industry dominance when Steve Jobs was at Apple. Well, he was a masterful communicator, and Bud Tribble over at Apple called it his reality distortion field. Steve Jobs was a master salesman. He knew exactly what to say to get people to believe in the impossible, to allow their I can't to be less valuable than their I can.
Also, if you want to learn how to have more confidence, check out my 254 Confidence series. It's free. The link is in the description below. Surround yourself with greatness. If you want to be more confident, you need to surround yourself with things that make you feel confident.
The minute you begin to get external in your life, worrying about what other people think about you, right? You've lost all control. And it never fills you up.
One of the real reasons we don't do the things that frighten us is because we are afraid of being judged.
Communication is one of the most important skills that entrepreneurs need to have, and I think a lot of businesses fail because the entrepreneur cannot communicate well, and if they even are sharing their ideas, they are not convincing enough, and so a lot of great ideas die. You could have the next greatest idea that can change the world. It's sitting up here. But because you can't articulate it, because you can't share it, because you can't communicate it well, and because you're not convincing enough to the people around you, it will never take off. The idea will die within you, and I hate that. I hate that, because building a business, getting the thing that's out here out into the world is greater than one person. No matter how much of a genius you are, to build a business, you need a team. You need a team of people to help you go far, and you also need to convince the media and customers and partners and suppliers that what you have is amazing. If you are the only one who thinks that your idea is amazing and you can't communicate or convince anybody else of that, then you're done. Then that idea dies within you, and I think unfortunately that's a lot of entrepreneurs. So Jordan has 3 of his tips. I'm gonna give you 3 of mine on how to be a convincing communicator. Step number 1 is have a powerful opinion. You have an opinion. What is it that you are trying to say? Make it mean something to yourself and to me, and make that the first sentence of every piece of content that you make. If you're doing a video, that's your first sentence. You're doing an Instagram post, put it in there. You're doing a LinkedIn post, an email, a newsletter, like put it in there. You lead with your powerful opinion on what is wrong with the world or what your viewpoint on XYZ topic is. Make it mean something to me, make me care. So if I'm talking about communication, how important it is for entrepreneurs, a powerful opinion would be something like, you need to learn how to communicate in your business, or you will never get that idea that's in your head out into the world, and your idea will die inside you. That's an opinion. Where lots of people might say something like, so if you want to learn how to build a successful business and maybe take your idea to the next level, I think maybe you should focus on trying to improve how you speak and communicate. Like, it's so long, it has lots of filler words. You use words like maybe and potentially and someday and one day and I wish and we instead of I, like affirmative. Stop worrying about what people's reactions are gonna be and speak your truth. Always lead with a powerful opinion. Tip number 2 is emotional commitment. This is where a lot of entrepreneurs really fall down. You've got your powerful opinion, you know what you stand for, you know what you're trying to communicate, but when you get in front of a camera or when you get down to writing, it doesn't sway people. It's not emotional enough. You could be saying all the best words when you get in front of a camera to make a video, but because you are talking in a very boring, very non-exciting manner, and because you're so worried about saying the perfect words that you are memorizing something, or you are looking at your script or trying to read from a teleprompter, nobody is going to care or listen to you. You need to have emotional commitment. You need to feel the thing and how important it is while you are saying it. For me, I'm envisioning all of you. I'm envisioning all the entrepreneurs that I've worked with who have these amazing ideas and they never get them out because they can't communicate. And even though I'm sitting here in an office by myself and there's nobody around to actually connect with, I'm just talking to a camera. I'm trying to channel you. I'm trying to channel all the people that I've connected with and seen. And I want to make sure that your business does well. And communicating is so important as part of that, which is why I'm doing this video. And hopefully the care, the love, the energy comes through in the content that I make. And so sales and convincing people, not in a against what they want, but in a positive way, like this is something that you guys can get together on, is about the energy transfer. You are not just selling a concept or an idea, you are transferring energy. whoever is more confident wins, whoever is more convincing wins, and it's usually from whoever believes in their thing more. If you absolutely believe in your thing and that this is right and it's for them and they need to do this thing because it's in their best interest, not because they're just trying to sell something down their throat, but you really, 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 really care. And if they feel that care as opposed to just words that you're saying, that's how you bring them on board. It's great to have the best words, but more important is the emotional commitment that you have behind them. So the best test with any of this is watch back some of your content. Like watch back your videos, read your newsletters, see the copy on your website, look at the story that you wrote about yourself and why you started this business. Does it get you excited? It's like boom, 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 boom. Like, yes, that's right. That's why I do this thing. Or do you watch it and you get bored? If you get bored and it doesn't get your heart beating, then do it again. Do it again, and do it again, and do it again, and do it again. You will be one of your best critics. You will be one of your harshest critics. And so being able to look over your content and get to the point where you say, wow, yeah, I'm really proud of that. That's when you start to win. And tip number 3 is raise the stakes. Just make it more important. If you want to move people, so often we're focused just on the tactics, the strategies. Here's the 5 things that you need to do. And people say, yeah, great, I love those, the 5 things, awesome. And they write them down and then they never do anything about it. You need to raise the stakes. You have to make it more important. You have to make me feel the pressure that if I don't do this thing that you want me to do, terrible things will happen, right? So if I talk about how important communication is, me just saying communication is really important as an entrepreneur, here are the 3 ways to do it, is not as powerful as communication is one of the most important skills that entrepreneurs need to have, because if you don't learn how to communicate your idea and get it out there, that idea will die inside you and your mission will never be realized. And listen, that paints a dark picture that's going to an extreme, and the idea is not to have hyperbole and make things bigger than they are, but that's a real case for tons of entrepreneurs, that if they do not learn how to communicate properly, their ideas will never get out there and their idea will die inside them. And so your goal, if you want to move people, is to make them realize how big this thing is for them if they don't take action. You're the expert. You know where the road is going. You see their future if they continue down that path. They don't see that future. They don't understand it. It's your job to help them see where this current path of action is going to lead them. And if they make the tweak, they make the change, they take your recommendations, where it could go. Raise the stakes, make it more important, make them feel that it's more important, and it actually starts with you feeling that this message is insanely important.
I believe the easiest way to influence somebody, not to convince them, not try to twist their arm, but the easiest way to influence somebody, to persuade somebody, is by asking them questions. By asking them questions. So when you know that the idea is wrong, instead of telling people, hey, you're wrong, this is no good, no one likes to hear that they are wrong. Even though they are wrong, they don't want to hear that shit. It's much better to ask them question, hey, you know what? Yeah, it's okay, we can go with this plan, but have you ever thought about this? What are the consequences if this doesn't work out? Wouldn't it be a good idea to have a plan B, right? And yes, this maybe it's gonna work, but what's the downside of this, right? And can we live with the downside? When you throw it out there and you make it their idea, because one thing I've learned in persuasion is this: when you say something, it means one thing. When they say something, it means everything. So instead of you saying it, make them say it. Make them think about it. Make them question it. Make them doubt their own ideas versus you try to doubt their ideas. And also, when you are communicating, when you're asking questions, you need to ask with certainty. In this world, in this uncertain world, what we do is we sell certainty in an uncertain world. That's what we do as closers, as entrepreneurs, right? As influencers.
What you'll find is that the better you are at communicating your why, people will want to work for you regardless of the opportunity that you afford them. Like, they want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
We do a little thing, which we've been doing for years and years and years, called a give and take. Whenever there's any kind of relationship, whether it's an outside partnership or even somebody who joins our team, we do something called a give and take, where we want somebody to be selfish and selfless within the relationship. So not give and get, but give and take. So we'll ask them, what is it that you have to give to us, that you have that you think that we need, right? And they'll tell us. And then we'll say, great, what is it that you selfishly want from us? And we want them to tell us what they can get from us and no one else.
I believe in that so much.
And when those things match, you have a balanced relationship. Because, so for example, I've had it with people. They'll tell me what they have to offer, and that's awesome because that's what I want. And then they'll say what they want to take, and they go, oh, I want to work with smart people. I'm like, plenty of smart people. What is it you want to take from me? They're like, oh, I want to help build something. Wonderful, do that anywhere. What do you want to take selfishly from me that you can get nowhere else? And if they can't answer the question, I want to engage in a relationship, and the reason is because in time, the relationship is unbalanced. They're going to be giving, but they're not taking, and I don't even know how to give them what they want. Then they'll complain they're not making enough money, or because it's not balanced.
That's right.
I believe that leadership is really a skill of influence. It is the most important skill that any human being can master. And I don't think of leadership as a position. I see it as a skill, a tool that all of us have to have. In other words, the quality of your life, I really believe, comes down to your level of leadership. Other people don't have to follow you to be a leader, but you have to live life on your terms. And the first person you have to influence is yourself. Whether you're fit or fat, whether your kids are on drugs or not, is who has more influence, the guy on the street corner or you. Whether you're fit or fat is, can you influence your own hands, your own body, your own mind to do what's necessary? So I think to be able to influence the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions, and the actions of another human being, that's what leadership is.
What is probably the most important thing to me in my life is I think that my children think that their daddy helps people. And what they've learned from me, both of them, is massive work ethic. Both my kids are super hardworking, good people. All I want them to have when they leave my house is I want them to have my work ethic.
Yeah.
I want them to have their faith, and I want them to have self-confidence, and I want them to be able to communicate. I think if you can leave the family with those things, work ethic, faith, self-confidence, and the ability to communicate, you're probably going to have a pretty good life. It takes care of every area. Your faith's going to make sure you're a good person and you contribute and you do well and you've got morals. Your self-confidence is obvious. Work ethic is obvious. Yep. But the underestimated thing in life is the ability to communicate your thoughts and your ideas. In the world today, information is a dime a dozen. If you're going to succeed in this life, you have to be able to communicate how you're feeling and thinking and transfer information to people. And I want them to be good at that too. Those are the things I always think of with my kids.
Connecting increases your influence in every situation. For the foundation of the teaching today, I want to make sure that we really have a grasp of why connecting with people is so vital. So if you'll go to the very first sentence in your note, the number one criteria for advancement and promotion for professionals is an ability to communicate effectively. That I do believe. I think the ability to connect and communicate is the number one criteria for success with your family, with your marriage, with your children, with your friends, in the workplace, the marketplace, in the community. If you have the ability to connect with people, if you can communicate and connect, not just communicate, it takes you and literally gives you and I a decided edge over others in the advancement of what we're trying to accomplish. For example, in your notes, presidential historian Robert Dallek says that successful presidents exhibit 5 skills and qualities that enable them to achieve things that others don't. So he's talking about leaders and presidents and people. What makes some achieve better than others? Here's the 5 things they do well. Number 1 is vision. Number 2, pragmatism. Number 3, consensus building. The ability to put together a team and get consensus. Number 4, charisma. And number 5, trustworthiness. Being a trustworthy kind of a person. Now, what is interesting about these five things that set the better presidents apart from maybe the average ones, 4 of the 5 deal with connecting. Vision is definitely a connecting skill, the ability to cast a future vision, consensus building, getting people to work together. You have to be able to connect to do that. Charisma, of course, that's why people follow the quote, the Pied Piper, and trustworthy. 4 of the 5 of the skills needed to be successful as a leader had a lot to do with connecting. So let me define connecting, because that's what this book is all about. Connecting is the ability to identify with people and relate to them in such a way that it increases our influence with them. In other words, we can identify with them until they say, he or she understands exactly what I know and what I'm going through, and we can relate with them until because of that ability, we begin to increase our influence with them. And of course, what do I teach about leadership? Very simple, leadership is influence.
Now I've got a special bonus clip with Henry Rollins on how to communicate emotionally that I think you're going to enjoy. But before that, it's time for the 3-point landing questions. Let's go from just watching a video to taking action. Here we go. Question number 1, how can you better communicate your why? Number 2, what will you do every week to practice your communication skills? And number 3, who are 3 people whose communication styles you are going to model and learn from?
I feel a genuine need to communicate with an audience, and it might just be the attention I didn't get as a kid. It can't come from anything good. But what I try and do is bring the best information I can to the stage and broadcast it. So it's reportage from distant points, from a fairly unique standpoint. And so basically I'm not keeping it all to myself. But I earnestly try to, it's not about entertainment. It's about communication, warning, broadcasting, emitting, and trying to leave something of myself with the audience. It's not mere entertainment. It's not just making people laugh or not. It's got to hurt me. It's got to leave lines in my face. I don't like any artistic endeavor that doesn't extol a price on the one doing it. So I'm not looking to get through these things okay. These things are actually very difficult and very hard on my psyche, which makes me think I'm doing the right thing.
If you want to learn how to take risks, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
Take some risks.
You got to risk.
Taking a big risk